I'm going to talk a little bit about Fibonacci and patterns and the stock market, the free market, fiat currency, and gold and silver, and human action, all rolled up into one really awesome pastry. So this is a book I found on archive.org, and I have not read it yet. I've only just searched through it. I figured I knew what was in it to some extent, but I just want to use it to sort of help make some points. I've been looking at the Fibonacci sequence for many years, and I did not know during all those years that I was sort of casually looking at it and showing a casual interest in it that it was actually used by people who invest in the stock market as a way to help find trends, the beginning and the end of trends. I learned this from a guy I watch on YouTube, and his channel is Maneco64, Maneco 64, and he was some kind of trader in London. He grew up in Brazil. He's American, and he goes through some of his history, his family history, on his channel. And I really like his videos because he's a free thinker and he shares his information, and I appreciate it because it's along the same lines as the way I think. So he talks a little bit about trends and the Fibonacci sequence, and this was the first time I had heard of anybody speak of trends in relation to the stock market. Now, I admit to you that this is something that I am just learning about, so I can't give you a lot of information on it, but I do want to make a point. My point is that some people, they can see what's about to happen, and they try to tell you, they try to warn you, but other people are ignorant. And I don't mean that as an insult, because we're all ignorant of something or things. We can't all know everything. But the point is being open-minded enough to listen. So when I go through this stuff, I want you to think about how information spreads, such as the grapevine, quote unquote. Think about how information can cause a start and an end to trends. Trends are what stockbrokers use to buy low and sell high and get rich. Trends follow the Fibonacci spiral, and the Fibonacci spiral has to do with human behavior patterns. Okay, so this is the book if you wanted to look through it and just kind of get an idea. And I just searched Fibonacci in here. You cannot download it. This is on archive.org. Some books you can download. This one you cannot. So you would have to actually look through it on here. But he does talk about Fibonacci and some of the patterns. And he talks about the history of Fibonacci. He talks about how he got his name, and this was common in a lot of cultures. They didn't go by the name that they were given when they were born. They go by what kind of person they were, or what kind of scholarly studies they were under, or that they were professionals in. Practical mathematics, the use of Arabic numbers. And then here it talks about breeding, and breeding seems to go by the Fibonacci number. And a lot of human behavior occurs according to the Fibonacci numbers. And it says down here, start with one pair of adult breeding rabbits, for the sake of argument, assume that each adult pair produces one pair of baby bunnies each month. The babies take 1 month to reach breeding age. The resulting count of pairs of adult and baby rabbits turns out to be matching the Fibonacci series. Okay, and this is the same for a lot of things. Okay, he's using the breeding of baby rabbits as just an example. So human behavior seems to follow the Fibonacci spiral. Okay, and they talk about Fibonacci numbers in nature, the golden ratio. So things that grow a certain way, certain plants grow according to the Fibonacci spiral. Shells, let's see, pine cones, sunflowers, they all grow according to the Fibonacci spiral. So the Fibonacci spiral is an example in mathematics of how things are in nature. Okay, human action is according to the Fibonacci spiral. So here it talks about tools for pattern finders. And pattern finders are some of those people who are really good at finding patterns in nature. But stock people who sell and buy stock, they use these. So a pattern finder, if you wanted to have a biblical example, you could use Noah, who knew that there was a flood coming and built a ship, an ark. Okay, so he may have been a pattern finder. He may have been seeing things and decided to prepare. So these are the guys who saw it coming a mile away. You know, you've heard of these people that you look at them and you say, well, how did you know that was going to happen? And he's like, man, I saw that coming a mile away. Okay, don't dismiss these people. Remember, it only takes a small minority of tireless people to start a brush fire in man's mind. Okay, so we're talking about trends in human behavior and trends in how information spreads and then how people react to that information. Okay, so trends due to human action appear to occur on the timeline. And this is how the stock brokers who buy and sell stock buy low, sell high, and get rich because they're able to spot the patterns. They've become really good at it. There's I don't know if this example really works that well, but there's people in China who can look at baby chickens whose gender is impossible for most people to tell apart, and they can just look at them and they know this one's a rooster and this one's a hen. They just know. It's kind of unexplainable. Okay, so always be ahead of the trend. That's the point. But how can you be ahead of the trend when the trends are controlled by just a few people, like a central bank or a central government, or these other people, bankers in the London city, or market analyzers, or media who's putting out false information all the time. So it's difficult for you sitting in your chair at home to be able to see the trend because you're often confused about what's actually going on, because they're changing things, they're altering things, they're covering things up, they're giving you bad information. And that is actually one of the things that's in the Army Field Manual on Deceptive Practices, to confuse people so they never know what's really going on and they never know what to do. Okay, that's them trying to control your view of the pattern so that you don't actually see it and you don't ever know what to do, so that you're always just doing what they want you to do. Okay, this is why a free market is the best market, because every person who has the right to see the trends, every person has the right to see the natural trends and make decisions based on his own ability to spot patterns. When these patterns are controlled by a few, the patterns are difficult to spot and the few benefit the most. Okay, so this idea of this pattern or this trend of big government is coming to an end, and you can see that it's coming to an end because more and more and more people are wanting to pull out, and more and more and more people are starting to understand and put together all the pieces. And so their deceitful practices only last for a period of time, and after that people start catching on, hey, this is not right, and they're not telling me the truth. We know now, it's popular knowledge now that you can't listen to the media because they're going to lie to you. And we know that. And then we have to look around and actually see what's going on so that we can see what's real and what's not real. And then we can make decisions based on those things instead of what the media is telling us, or instead of what politicians are telling us. So people are starting more and more to turn their backs on the lies of media and all the propaganda, and starting to just open their eyes and look for themselves. Okay, so this brings me to this idea that money is only the fictional currency and not gold and silver. So I had a conversation with someone. It was a really short conversation, and I told him, well, I hope that you have at least a roll of silver dimes, just in case. And he said, why? I can't eat dimes. I can't eat gold and silver. And I said, well, you can't eat any money. You can't eat anything but food. You can try to eat some things that aren't food, but it's not going to work well for you. You can't eat guns, and you can't eat ammo, and you can't eat Federal Reserve notes. But you can have something that actually has value. So last Christmas, I asked for a metal detector for Christmas, and I got one. And so I went out and I found some old coins. Well, at least I thought they were old coins. I dug them up and I looked at them and I scraped them off, and I was like, wow, this looks really old. It must be a really old coin. And then when I figured out what the date was, I realized that these were new coins. And the reason why they had corroded so much was because they weren't made out of gold and silver. Gold and silver is pulled from the ground, and it tarnishes, but it can be shined up, and then it's almost to a brand new state again. These corroded metals, these other metals that are used to make currency out of, the fiat currency, corrodes, and it just goes away. It goes back to the earth. Whereas gold and silver, they stay around. So you can choose to have fiat currency over gold and silver, but that fiat currency, when it doesn't have any value, or it corrodes to the point to where you can't tell what it even is anymore, then it's still worthless. But if you have a dime of silver, then you'll have that, and it may tarnish, but it's not going to go anywhere. It'll still be there. So would you rather have something that actually has a value, or would you rather have something that actually has no value? And if you pick something that has no value, then you're picking something that is not going to last. Okay, it's going to go away. It's not going to last. It's not going to be worth anything, and you can't buy anything with it anyway. So you can go to the store now and you can buy groceries with your fiat currency, but when the fiat currency, when you got to go spend $100 on a gallon of milk, or you can spend a dime on a gallon of milk, which would you prefer? When a dime now, I think, is worth probably $2. And the dime will always either be the same value or worth more compared to the price of commodities. So when it comes to money and what's real and not real, You need to really think about what it is you're thinking about and how you're thinking about things. Because if you're thinking that you can't eat silver, well, you can't eat fiat anyway. And if it comes to the point to where you need to use silver, your fiat is not going to be worth anything. And the other thing that I told this person was, he says, you can't eat it. And I said, well, that's not true, because if the currency fails, and even if it doesn't fail, there's 3 people close to me who sell duck eggs, chicken eggs, goose eggs. I can buy whole chickens. I can buy pork, beef, raw milk, and I can go down to the docks and I can buy the catch of the day and some shrimp and some mussels and maybe some crab. And all these people will right now take silver. So if you're thinking, well, I can't buy anything with silver, well, if the Federal Reserve notes become so worthless that when you have to spend $100 of it to go to the store and buy a gallon of milk, wouldn't it be better if you had a roll of dimes, if you bought a roll of dimes and you went down to your neighbors, if you had a list of the people in your area who sold these things, and you were able to just buy vegetables from the guy down the road who likes to garden? Or, the people who sell eggs are usually women. These women in my area who sell chicken eggs, they have signs in their yard, and when you're driving around, just look for signs and just make a note. This is where I saw a lady selling chicken eggs. And then when you have time, go back by there and just say, hey, I have a silver dime. How many chicken eggs can I buy with one silver dime? I've had a lady drop food off at my doorstep for a silver dime. We have a lady who will raise a pig, and then her friend down the road will slaughter it, and I can pay them in silver. They'll take silver, and they can go trade with their friend down the road who will give them slop from their restaurant or their old throwaway food, their garbage, for free to feed their pigs. And then they can go in the other direction and go down the road and find somebody who has, swine food, and will sell them some swine food for a little dime, because that dime today, it may be worth $2. Tomorrow, it may be worth $3. And then 6 months later, maybe it's worth $4, because everybody's using it, and it's back to being money. It's back to being currency because it's what's current. So if you're thinking you can't eat silver, think again. Like I said, I could go down to the dock where the boats come in, and they would rather sell their fish and shrimp to me for silver that they can tuck away and have later on than to sell it to the restaurants. The restaurants, a lot of them don't pay top dollar unless they're high-end restaurants, and then they already have contracts with people. So this mom and pop guy on a shrimp boat, they'll be happy to sell you some of their shrimp. These little bait shops, they'll sell you some stuff too, so you can go fishing. And my advice on buying metals is to buy a variety of sizes. So you can buy some an ounce, so that when you want to buy a larger product, you just, you can pay in larger coins. You can buy some bars of various sizes, but I would start with the dimes, the 1/10 and the quarter ounce and half ounce, and then some ounces, because you're more likely to want to eat before you want to buy a new phone, or something that's going to cost some bigger item that's going to cost more. So yeah, the smaller ones, I like to set up with the smaller ones first, because if it drops tomorrow, the biggest thing I'm going to want to buy is food, and I'm not going to go try